welcome to our viewers in Nigeria and across the world. Lunchtime Politics begins right now. Senate President Akpabio replies. Senator Abbo says he has no hand in the court judgment which voided Senator Abbo's election, describes the claims as provocative and unbecoming of a senator. Zamfara residents protest over incessant bandit attacks, vow not to vacate the road until government provides enough security to affected communities. And Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu asks President Tinubu to urgently appoint a substantive Auditor General of the Federation in line with the Constitution. Well, that will be the Deputy Speaker, not Senator Orji Kalu. Well, let's begin this afternoon with the President, who is on the verge of presenting his very first budget in office. And here's what we know about that budget. It's about 26 trillion naira. That's what is being proposed by the Federal Executive Council as an aggregate expenditure for the 2024 appropriation bill that will be sent to the National Assembly for consideration. Just to put this in context, that's about, what, over 4 trillion naira, more than the 2023 budget by former President Buhari, which was, well, knocking 22 trillion naira. But this was disclosed by the Minister of Economic Planning and Budget, Mr. Atiku Bagudu, while addressing State House correspondents after the Federal Executive Council meeting at the Presidential Villa. So all eyes on what that budget will hold. But let's take a listen to this package by our State House correspondent, Larry Lassisi.
President Bola Tinubu arriving for what is the second Federal Executive Council meeting of this administration. The first part of the day's meeting is the swearing-in ceremony for 3 newly appointed ministers. One after the other, their citations are read and they take their oath of office. The ministers were assigned their portfolios, with Jamila Bio Ibrahim as the Minister of Youths, Ayodele Olawande, Minister of State Youths, and Balare de Lawal as Minister of Environment. This brings the number of ministers in the federal cabinet to 48. The meeting then went into a closed-door session. Afterwards, 7 ministers briefed journalists on the resolutions reached. The council approved the 2024 to 2026 medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper.
The assumptions include oil price benchmark, which I said for 2024, we are assuming 73.96, oil production of 1.78 million barrels a day, exchange rate of 700, then the inflation of 21% and GDP growth rate of 3.76%. The aggregate expenditure is estimated at 26.01 trillion naira for the 2024 budget.
The minister also confirmed that a supplementary budget is being worked on, while the administration is hoping to sign the 2024 budget before the last day of 2023.
There will be a supplementary budget because, of course, there are continuing obligations and there are responses to security which can be immediate. So Mr. President is mindful of those and is assessing them. But Mr. President is also committed to the budget process and its integrity. So he wants to ensure that monies that are appropriated will be can be spent in the period for which they are appropriated.
The Minister of Finance spoke on the $1.5 billion loan secured from the World Bank.
Things are tough. Mr. President is aware, and that is why he has the intervention package, 500 billion naira, as well as other measures, including a wage award and later on a new wage structure for the country. So I think that answers all the questions about the 1.5 billion, why and how soon, and use of proceeds. It goes straight into the balance of payments, goes straight into the reserves to support the effort to improve the country's fiscal situation, to improve government finances.
It has been disclosed that henceforth, Federal Executive Council meetings will take place on Monday each week. It was, however, made clear that that did not necessarily mean that the meetings will hold every week, as that will be determined by the amount of work that needed to be done in the week under consideration. From the Presidential Villa, Landry Lasisi for Channels Television News.
And it's a day after the Court of Appeal nullified the election of the senator representing Adamawa North, Senator Elisha Abbo, and well, he's been reacting to the Court of Appeal verdict which nullified his election. But let's tell you about that judgment first. The court agreed with his challenger, Mr. Amos Yohana of the PDP, that based on Section 137 of the Electoral Act 2022, the results tendered clearly showed that there was no compliance with the Electoral Act, and the court thereafter deducted the invalid votes from both parties and found that Amos Yohana of the PDP won the election by majority of lawful votes. But Senator Elisha Abbo is not having this, as he alleges that he is a victim of power play in the Senate following the emergence of the leadership of the upper chamber, particularly Senator Godswill Akpabio, who is the president of the Senate. Well, he made some other claims and allegations in this video, which I'd like you to listen to and then bring you more. Take a listen.
As you are aware, election was conducted this February 2023, where I won the election with about 72,000 votes. And my opponent came second with about 61,000 votes, given a gap of 11,000 vote lead. What they allege was, one, corrupt practices and non-adherence to the electoral law. Of course, you are aware that before the election, I had my own problems with my party based on my stand on national issues, more especially my stand on same-faith ticket, which I felt wasn't good for the country as of that time. I want to tell you that I'm a hero of democracy. I'm a martyr of democracy. I am been actually bewitched hunt by government because of my critical stand on national issues. That is the truth. It is obvious. I heard it from reliable source, which I will not call the name now, that 5 senators will be removed from the Senate. Those who did not stand with my brother and my elder brother, my good colleague, distinguished Senate President Akpabio. Those who did not vote for him, 5 of us are going. I am number 1. Ojuzo Kalu would go. They have penciled 5 of us. I'll take it. They told me that I'm going. Ojuzo Kalu is going, and few others are going, because we did not support the emergence of my brother and my colleague, Senator Akpabio, from emerging the president of the Senate.
But that's not all, because the president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has washed his hands of well, what you might describe as a predicament of Senator Elisha Abbo. Senator Abbo, of course, was sacked by that appeal court and was replaced by a PDP candidate who contested against him in Adamawa State. In a statement issued by the media aide to the president of the Senate, Honorable Abbo, he expressed shock at the assertions of the Adamawa North senator, describing his claims as delinquent, provocative, and unbecoming of a distinguished senator. Now, part of the statement reads that it is uncharitable for Senator Abbo to pour his frustrations on Senator Akpabio or anyone else, and his action betrays the bile which he has for Senator Akpabio. Goes on to say democracy is founded on the rule of law, so for anybody to accuse one of the strong agents of democracy and governance in the mold of Senator Akpabio, such an individual, he says, must be a monument of self-pity. Well, it appears that's not all with that scenario, but we're live for you at the Senate chambers where there's expected to be plenary. We're, of course, monitoring the proceedings. If anything breaks, we'll definitely bring it to you first. We'll go on a break now on the program. When we return, we'll turn our attention to governance in Abia State. That's the only party where the Labour Party is ruling as governor. But there have been some issues in recent days which we'll be diving into. That's the moment. Just stay with us. Welcome back to the program. We're in Abia State now, southeast Nigeria, where there's been, call it some sort of controversy, really, over some proposed appointment in that state and governance at large. Some, particularly the opposition, have spoken about what they, think is a governance style of Governor Alex Otti, how they think is carrying on with governance and the issues they have with it. But of particular note is an address which Governor Alex Otti made during a function where he was speaking about appointment of mayor and the rest. So I would like you to watch the video of the governor speaking on the appointment, and we'll be back for this conversation. So take a listen.
I'll be announcing billionaires as the mayor of your local government. If you don't like it, go and hit your head against the wall. Gone are the days when local government chairmen will come and be sharing money. We don't share money here. First of all, I do not take.
Well, it's a quite lengthy video, but this is a part that got a lot of people talking, particularly the opposition. So let's get deeper into this and, of course, governance as a whole in Abia State. We're joined on Lunchtime Politics by Mr. Eze Chikemnayo, who's a constitutional lawyer and former commissioner for information in Abia State. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Good afternoon, Mr. Chikemnayo. Thank you for joining us on the program. We're also joined by Mr. Ferdinand Ekema.
My brother, how are you?
Right, we're doing well. We're also joined by Mr. Ferdinand Ekema, who's a special advisor to Governor Otti on media and publicity. He joins us virtually on the program this afternoon. It's good to have you on the program, Mr. Ekema. I'll begin with you, Mr. Chikemnayo, because I know you released a statement recently over some of the pronouncement of Governor Otti about the appointment, which the government says is not even official just yet, but you seem to have some issues with that. Can you speak more about that statement you released, even though the government says the appointment is not official yet?
Man, our governor, you heard him by yourself. He said, I'm going to appoint billionaires as mayors. If you don't like it, hit your head on the wall. And first of all, we think that is very insensitive. That's very insulting. And that's very becoming of somebody of that very exalted office. How can you tell the people you govern, I'm going to do this, if you don't like it, hit your head on the wall? That you heard it, it's not what I said. And what was he trying to talk about? He was talking about a very sensitive issue that has been very discreetly and, carefully managed by successive governors. Because the issue of place of birth and place of origin has been a very, very controversial issue, not just in Abia State, but everywhere. So successive governors, especially in the metropolitan city of Abba, they've managed this problem in a very deliberate and careful manner so that they can, balance the equation to assuage those who own the land and those who though they are visitors, have stayed long enough to participate in the governance of the land. Nobody is saying that somebody who is not from Abba may not be part of governance. But what we're saying is that everywhere in Nigeria, where you have that unique setting, it is managed carefully. It's not an issue of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to appoint a billionaire as a mayor. If you don't like it, hit your head on the wall. So the essence of my release is that our governor, Chief Alex Otti, should practice what he preached before he became governor. Because governance is easier said than done. Governance is easier said than done. You know, before he became governor, he has a lot of preachments. And we have discovered, not just in Abia State, but across the country, that the party that produced Alex Otti, the Labour Party, is a party of hypocrisy. It's a party that does not practice what they preach. They dwell on ideals, which in most cases are highfalutin and hallucinatory. But when it comes to the hard rocks of governance, they fail woefully. Otti said he was going to be very transparent as a governor. 4 months down the line, his governance is shrouded in utter secrecy. He has broken all records in terms of non-observance of due process. He has turned into a dictator and emperor. He has become intolerant of dissenting voices. And in a very terrible way, he has become the governor that is setting new Guinness Book of Record in terms of inflation of contracts. In Abba, for instance, a 7-kilometer road that was almost 40% done was awarded last week to Julius Berger at the cost of 30 billion. 7-kilometer road, no bridges, no swamp, no serious issues of terrain. And in that same contract, there's a conflict of interest. Otti is the owner of Signature Bank, the bank he floated before he became governor for a few weeks. The chairman of Signature Bank and the chairman of Julius Berger is the same person. Conflict of interest. So a lot of things he preached about. Today we see that he is a complete and total different person from the man who was here making all manner of, allegations and trying to present himself as a saint, and the emperor that we are seeing today.
Right, so Mr. Chikanayo,
it is the idea of telling us that local governments should not be run by TC. I wish we have time, I will send to you a statement he made 2 years ago in 2019, condemning using transitional council chairmen in local governments, lampooning the former governor. Today, 4 months down the line, instead of setting up the machinery for the conduct of local government elections, by the way, local governments in Abia State have become a shadow of themselves. We have an allegation which has been made openly and which he has refused to refute, that the seals, local governments have what we call seals that treasurers use to handle the check. The CEOs of the entire local governments in Abia State have been hijacked and taken back to Umuahia. And so, the conduct of local government affairs has become, so that allegation, I'm making it here today, and I want him to come and refute it for Nigerians, because
all right. So let's bring in Mr. Ekoma, Mr. Chikanayo, just a moment. So quite a number of issues you have raised, and we'll try to get responses to all of them. So let's bring in Mr. Ekoma, who's a special advisor to Governor Otti on media and publicity. Welcome to the show. Quite a number of issues raised by Mr. Chikanayo. So I'll just let you to speak to some of them. The latest he just talked about is concerning the seals and then local government saying that they're a shadow of themselves, but particularly the style of government or governance of Governor Otti. He claims that Governor Otti has now become some sort of a dictator. He talked about inflation of contracts, conflict of interest, quite a number of issues, Mr. Ekoma. Can you hear me now?
I couldn't hear you clearly, Kayode.
Right, but I hope you got some of the issues that Mr. Chikanayo raised, and they directly relate to the style of governance of Governor Otti. So I'd like you to respond to them.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Ekoma. Looks like we have...
I couldn't really hear him clearly, but I did hear him mention the seals of the local governments.
Okay, so he mentioned that, but let me just do a quick recap so we can deal with these issues as they come up. So he says that Governor Otti that we have now is different from the Governor Oti who campaigned. He says he mentioned some ideals, some things he said he was going to do in governance, but now Mr. Chikemnayo claims that Governor Oti has become a dictator, that he has inflated contracts. He's talked about conflict of interest in a recent road contract that was awarded. Quite a number of issues he has raised. And then he talked about the seals and how he condemned transition councils for local government, but that seems to be the case now. So please speak to those allegations.
Okay, thank you, Kayode. I was managing to hear him, but thank you for summarizing what he said. Of course, we are already conversant with most of the allegations they've been leveling. There is no difference between the Dr. Alex Oti we have as governor and the Dr. Alex Oti we had as maybe as an aspirant, as a candidate. The issue of seal is a shock to us because we find it difficult to understand where that is coming from. You've got people, civil servants, who are in charge of the local government at the moment, pending when the DC chairman will be appointed. And you've got treasurers, you've got heads of accounts, people who are in charge of the local government. There is no controversy whatsoever. Unfortunately, what they do is that they wake up every day and fabricate one falsehood or the other to mislead the public. So that allegation is baseless, and they've not been able to lay hand on any document to substantiate this allegation. That is what baffles us the more. So that particular allegation is baseless and unfounded, and they have never brought out anything to substantiate that claim. So it's false. Now, the issue of award of contracts. For example, Julius Beja, you have Ministry of Works. There are processes for award of contracts. And like it was announced, people beat it. And now, because of the strategic importance of the road, that was actually, or that could be said to be the major road contract that has been awarded outside the small, the few small roads that have been awarded. This is actually the major strategic road that has been awarded by the state government. And they've been shouting about the cost of the road. And we said, as at 2017, you claimed to have awarded that road at a cost of 9 billion naira to a little known construction company. And as at the time you awarded that road, that the dollar was 300 naira. And if you do the math, you will find out that that cost stands at $30 million today. If you do the math of 9 billion naira, $300, I mean by dollar, you will agree with me that the cost is $30 million. And what is the value of $30 million today? 30 billion naira. Now the road in question was never executed. People's houses were destroyed in their hundreds. I mean, buildings that did not encroach on the road. No compensation was paid. A lot of people lost their lives. We are talking facts that are verifiable. That was why on the day of the flag off, thousands of people trooped out from every nook and cranny of Abbo to be part of you. You will even think that there was an extraordinary celebration that was being done that day, because that road means a lot to our people. Because economic activities were destroyed by the OKC Basu government, which Chikemnayo was a commissioner in. And
so,
no compensation was made.
Mr. Kama,
the road
let's
was never built.
Right, pardon me to come in here. We'll take on some of the other issues. We're due for a quick break now. When we return, I mean, he referred to the video which we put up earlier about the governor saying those who don't like some of his decisions can, hit their heads against the wall. He says it's unbecoming of a leader. That and more we'll take on when we return. Stay with us.
We are passionate about two things in Nigeria. The first is football. The second is our rice. And nobody celebrates like a Nigerian. So, for every goal scored, every mark made, you can be sure to always come back home to rice. Celebrate with Nigerian Premium Big Bowl Rice, homegrown just like you. Big Bowl Rice, tasty rice, nourished you.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Just before we continue with our conversation on Abia state governance, let's tell you that residents of Sakajiki town in Kora Namoda local government area of Zamfara State are currently protesting against the continuous bandit attacks on their communities. The protesters who blocked the Kara Namoda Gusau highway this morning say they will not open the road unless the government attends to them and provides enough security personnel to the communities. Last Saturday, a police post in the community was attacked by bandits, killing 1 police personnel, cutting away 2 rifles. And a security source told Channels Television that the State Commissioner of Police, Mohammed Dalijan, and the Emir of Kora, Mohammed Asha, are currently on their way to Sakajiki town in order to address the protesters. So let's go back to Abia State now. We still have with us Mr. Eze Chikemayo, former Commissioner for Information in the State, and Mr. Ferdinand Ekema, Special Advisor to Governor Oti on Media and Publicity. So, Mr. Ekema, quickly, I'd like you to respond to the point he made, that video, which has gone viral now. The governor saying those who don't like what he did should hit their head against a wall or something like that. And what he says, that's unbecoming of a governor. So, is that a statement he really meant, or what exactly is the context? That's for you, Mr. Ekema. Looks like Mr. Ekema cannot, looks like he's frozen right there. But let me come to you, Mr. Chikemayo, as we wind down now. So he has said that some of those things should have been done by the government, the previous government, Governor Okezie-Ikpeazu's government. And we've seen this back and forth time and again. In fact, some people look at the Alex Oti government and they say, well, it seems to be doing a lot. What happened with the previous government, you know, in terms of road constructions, in terms of getting funding and the rest? So as we wind down, what happened during the Okezie-Ikpeazu government that, well, looks like the Alex Oti government is getting right?
Not in the media, but on the ground, he's doing nothing. He's doing havoc on the ground. He has sacked over 9,000 civil servants in less than 4 months. That's most insensitive and very callous. He has sacked and suspended all permanent secretaries in Abia State without cause, without reason, without inquiry. This is verifiable. He has suspended a lot of directors on the mere suspicion that they were not supportive of the Labour Party. He has taken over the National Union of Road Transport Workers and dissolved it outside the electoral process. In fact, the chairman of Nigerian Labour Congress in Nigeria, the president, had to write him when he arbitrarily suspended the NLC officials in Abia State without recourse to due process. So arbitrariness, impulsiveness, and lack of sensitivity and callousness has become the characteristics of the OT 4 months in power. And this is, like I said earlier, in contradiction to all the claims of piety. In fact, everybody in Abia knows that government as a government of hypocrisy today. They don't practice what they preach. Everything they preach, they are doing the opposite. No due process, no transparency, no prudence. And look at what he said. He said,
well, Mr.
I'm going to appoint a mayor. If you don't like it, hit your head on the wall.
Well, we have to anchor at that point. We're totally out of time, really, on this. But I don't know if Mr. Ekema can hear me. In less than 20 seconds, can you just give your response? The connection has not been favorable to this conversation with you. Mr. Ekema, quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Kayode. That negotiation, it's embarrassing. The video of the interview the governor granted or the statement he made is everywhere. There was never a time the governor said he has appointed any mayor. Of course, there is nothing like mayor in Abba. The governor gave an example in the course of his speech. Chikanoya took it everywhere. Even the people who come from the area, the people he's trying to incite, have hit back at him because they know he's not speaking for them. The truth is that Governor Alex Oti is enjoying the massive support of the people on the basis of the performance the people have seen. Beyond his capacity, beyond his antecedents. Well,
we have to anchor now, Mr. Ekema. We're totally out of time. But clearly, this is a conversation we can always...
He has appointed a mayor.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ferdinand Ekema, who's a spokesperson to Governor Alex Oti of Abia State, as well as Mr. Eze Chikemayo, former Commissioner for Information. Gentlemen, this is an ongoing conversation. We'd like to thank you so much and wish both of you the very best. Well, that's been the program for this afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayode Kihilo, and coming up next, is political paradigm. Stowe Channels Television, your home for the news.